Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are really thrilled to have you here with us today.
Absolutely.
Whether you are, listening on your commute or maybe getting some work done around the house or just sitting down with a cup of coffee, we have a pretty profound journey mapped out for you.
We really do.
I want to start by throwing out a question. It is the core question that is going to drive basically every single minute of our conversation today.
Right.
And the question is this: how can you abide in the holiest of all, God's immediate, unfiltered presence through Christ on a daily basis?
Not just on a Sunday morning.
Exactly. Not just when the music is perfectly swelling in church and not just after you die, but on a chaotic, random Tuesday morning.
It really is the ultimate question of the spiritual life, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's everything.
And to answer it, we are going to be relying entirely on the profound insights drawn from Andrew Murray's absolute masterpiece on the book of Hebrews. It's titled The Holiest of All.
Such a powerful book.
It is. Murray wrote this late in the 19th century, but when you read his commentary, it feels like he is diagnosing the exact spiritual fatigue so many people are experiencing right this very second.
Totally.
He wrote it with a singular, relentless purpose in mind.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We want to guide you from a life that might feel characterized by spiritual exhaustion or constant self-effort and this nagging sense of distance from your Creator.
Yeah, that distance is what kills us.
Right. We want to guide you away from that and into a daily, uninterrupted experience of the heavenly life right here on earth.
That's the promise.
If you have ever felt like you are just constantly striving, like pedaling a spiritual bicycle uphill, but never really arriving at a place of deep, abiding peace, then this conversation is custom tailored for you.
We need to establish right up front that Murray wasn't interested in abstract theology.
No, not at all.
This isn't an exercise in splitting theological hairs or debating historical timelines just for the sake of intellectual stimulation.
Right, it's not a textbook.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is about a radical, fundamental shift in daily living. What Murray makes incredibly clear is that far too many people settle for a wilderness experience.
A wilderness experience.
Yes. They are surviving, their sins are forgiven, but they are not dwelling in the presence. But the promise of Hebrews is something far greater. It is the promise of an open door into the very heart of God.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Since you, our listener, are likely pretty well versed in the basic layout of the Old Testament tabernacle, let's bypass the basic architectural blueprint and get right into how Murray weaponizes this metaphor to critique the modern church.
It's a brilliant critique.
It really is. So we know the layout. There's the outer court with the brazen altar.
Right.
Then the holy place where the priests do their daily work.
Breaking the sacrifice.
Yeah, burning incense, the lampstand, all of that. And then that massive, thick veil blocking the final room, the holiest of all. What Murray zeroes in on is the psychological and spiritual conditioning of that veil.
For 15 centuries, the message of that heavy veil was unequivocal and honestly traumatic.
Traumatic is a good word for it.
The message was, enter not.
Enter not.
That was the old covenant reality. Man and a holy God could not dwell together intimately because of the unresolved issue of sin.
So there was always a barrier.
Always. The high priest could only enter that final room once a year, on the Day of Atonement, and he could never enter without the blood of a sacrifice.
Just to keep from dying himself.
Exactly. It was a constant visual reminder of separation. It taught a vital lesson about the holiness of God, yes, but it also cemented a consciousness of deep, unbridgeable distance.
Right, like God is in there and you are out here.
Precisely. The average person, and even the regular priests who spent their entire lives serving in the holy place, could only get so close.
When I read Murray's take on how that veil remains intact in our own modern minds, I mean, it completely stopped me in my tracks.
It's a sobering thought.
I had to look at my own routine and ask myself some really hard questions. Because Murray argues that thousands of years after the cross, a massive portion of Christians are still living their daily lives as if that thick veil is fully intact.
Yes, living in old covenant reality.
They live almost exclusively in the outer court. They are deeply relieved that their sins are pardoned at the altar, but they pitch their tent right there and just stop.
They settle for pardon without presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe they press into the holy place, which Murray equates to doing all the right religious activities, serving, reading, praying.
The daily ministry.
Right. But they are still living with a psychological veil between them and God. They are doing the work of the priesthood, but absolutely lack the deep resting joy of his immediate presence.
It is a tragic irony. They are living an Old Covenant reality in a New Covenant era.
It makes no sense when you think about it.
They have the theology of the New Testament, but the lived experience of an Old Testament Israelite. But the massive paradigm shift, the earthquake that changed the cosmos, happened when Christ died.
The moment of his death.
The text emphasizes that at that exact moment, the veil of the temple was rent in two from top to bottom.
From top to bottom, meaning man didn't do it.
Exactly. God tore it. It wasn't just moved aside for a moment. It was violently torn apart by God himself.
Ripped wide open.
The two compartments, the holy place of serving and the holiest of all of dwelling, became one single room. The message of heaven shifted instantly and permanently from enter not to enter in.
Enter in.
And the why here is crucial. Christ didn't just die to save us from a future hell. He died to bring us into direct, personal, living fellowship with the living God right now.
If you are listening to this right now, look at your daily routine. Look at your internal dialogue, your background anxiety level.
That's the real test.
Are you serving God with a veil between you? Are you standing in the outer court, just grateful you have a ticket out of judgment? Or are you actually living and dwelling in the holiest of all? Because the door has been kicked wide open.
Yeah. That transition from the outer court to the inner sanctuary is the entire trajectory of the Christian life according to Hebrews.
So how do we make that transition?
Yeah.
Because clearly a lot of us are stuck.
To help us understand how to actually make that transition, Murray identifies what he calls the three great mysteries in the book of Hebrews.
Okay, 3 mysteries.
Now, these aren't mysteries in the sense of a puzzle to be solved like a murder mystery.
All right, not a whoobisant.
Rather, they are profound spiritual realities that have been revealed specifically to remedy our Christian feebleness. Murray insists that when believers are weak, slothful, or constantly struggling with doubt, it is almost always because they have not firmly grasped these 3 realities.
Let's dive into those. Mystery number 1 is the heavenly sanctuary open.
Yes.
We often default to thinking of heaven strictly as a future destination. A geographical location we go to when our physical bodies die.
The whole someday up in the clouds mentality.
Exactly. But Murray reveals from the text that heaven is actually a state of life.
A state of life.
Christ didn't just go to a place. He entered the true heavenly tabernacle for us, opening the very presence of God so that we can dwell there now. We do not have to wait for our physical bodies to give out to experience the heavenly life.
The holiest of all is no longer sealed off for a future age. It is accessible daily through faith.
Which is mind-blowing.
Christ's entrance into heaven wasn't just a personal victory lap after the resurrection. It was a pioneering act on our behalf. He went in for us as a forerunner.
He left the door open behind him.
This completely counters that low, feeble spiritual life so many experience. If heaven is open day by day, inviting us into abiding communion with God's love and power, then our daily earthly life can be absolutely suffused with the atmosphere of heaven.
So you take it with you.
You carry the atmosphere of the holiest of all with you into your workplace, your home, your conversations.
But wait, how do we actually get in? I mean, it is one thing to know a door is open, but what is the actual path to walk through it?
That brings us to the second mystery.
Right. Mystery number 2, the new and living way. The writer of Hebrews says this way was dedicated for us through the veil, that is to say, Christ's flesh.
Christ's flesh.
I want to use the analogy of a pioneer here. Imagine a dense, terrifying, completely impassable jungle.
Yeah.
You could never get through it on your own. You'd be torn apart. But a pioneer goes ahead of you, taking the blows, hacking down the thicket, bleeding, and blazing a clear trail all the way to the other side.
He takes the brunt of it.
You still have to walk the trail, but the impossible barrier has been broken.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of what Murray is saying about Christ's flesh, the pioneer analogy works perfectly.
Yeah.
Murray elaborates heavily on what that new and living way actually looks like in daily practice. It is the path of self-sacrifice and perfect obedience.
Self-sacrifice.
When Christ came in the flesh, he yielded his will entirely to the Father, even unto death. He denied the flesh. That was the hacking through the jungle.
So he carved the path of obedience.
Yes, we follow him on this new and living way, not by engaging in legalistic striving or trying to follow a massive list of external rules. We walk the path by yielding to his path.
By yielding.
We walk it by denying our own self-will and surrendering entirely to God.
But the text specifically calls it a living way. If it's just about me sacrificing my will and denying myself, That sounds incredibly exhausting. That sounds like dead religion all over again.
This raises an important question, and Murray anticipates it. It is called a living way because it isn't a dead legal requirement.
Okay.
You aren't doing the hacking. It is energized by the very resurrection life of Jesus. He actually supplies the strength to walk the path he opened.
Oh, wow.
When you yield your will, you aren't left in a void. You are immediately filled with his living power to walk the path. You are being carried along the trail he blazed.
Which brings us to mystery number 3. And I honestly think this is the linchpin of the whole book of Hebrews.
It really is.
Murray identifies this as the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Jesus as the high priest dispensing heaven. The text introduces us to Jesus as a high priest after the order of Melchizedek.
Melchizedek.
And I want to spend some time here because we read over that name, Melchizedek, and our eyes just glaze over it. It sounds like archaic trivia.
It does to modern ears.
But to a first-century Jewish reader, bringing up Melchizedek was an intellectual and theological earthquake.
It truly was an earthquake. The Jewish readers of Hebrews were facing immense persecution, and they were deeply tempted to abandon Christianity and go back to the visible, tangible, historical rituals of the Aaronic priesthood.
Because it felt safe.
It felt established.
Yeah.
They had the temple, the vestments, the lineage. Hebrews counters this by reaching all the way back to Genesis 14, before the law, before Aaron, to this mysterious figure of Melchizedek who blessed Abraham.
Right, and what I love about how Murray breaks this down is the focus on lineage.
The genealogy.
The entire Levitical priesthood, the order of Aaron, was entirely based on genealogy. You were a priest because your dad was a priest.
And his dad was a priest.
It was a fleshly, earthly lineage. But Melchizedek steps onto the pages of Genesis with no recorded father, no mother, no genealogy, no beginning of days, and no ends of life.
He just appears.
He is a priest purely by the inherent dignity of his person. So when the writer of Hebrews says Jesus is a priest after the order of Melchizedek, they are saying Jesus doesn't need an earthly lineage to qualify him.
What's fascinating here is the absolute contrast between Aaron and Melchizedek. Aaron's priesthood was characterized by temporary, repeated acts.
The daily grind.
He had to keep offering sacrifices day after day, year after year, because the blood of bulls and goats couldn't permanently change the human heart.
It just rolled the debt forward.
Exactly. And the priests kept dying. They had to be replaced constantly. But Jesus is a priest forever.
Forever.
The text uses a phrase that is absolutely central to Murray's entire thesis. The power of an endless life.
The power of an endless life.
Jesus maintains our fellowship with God not through external, repeated rituals, but with an indestructible, unceasing, endless life force.
He breathes his own heavenly life into us via the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
He doesn't just sit up in heaven on a throne, passively watching us struggle. He actively ministers the blessings of the heavenly sanctuary directly into our hearts.
He is an active high priest.
Because his life is eternal and unbroken, our fellowship with God can be unbroken too. He imparts the Spirit of heaven into us so that our daily earthly conduct actually reflects the heavenly reality.
This was the exact encouragement the persecuted Hebrew believers needed. They didn't need a new set of rituals. They needed to know that their high priest was actively, permanently mediating an indestructible life to them, no matter what their earthly circumstances looked like.
But to really step into that access, to walk through that torn veil and experience this endless life, we have to talk about something that can make modern listeners a bit uncomfortable.
The blood.
Yeah, it is the absolute bedrock of everything Murray is discussing. The text talks about having boldness to enter the holiest by the blood of Jesus. The Greek word used there is parrhesia.
Parrhesia is a brilliant word study. In ancient Greece, it was originally a political term.
A political term?
Yes.
Yeah.
It referred to the democratic right of a full citizen to speak freely and openly in the public assembly without fear of reprisal. It meant unhindered, confident speech.
I find that so incredibly empowering. The writer of Hebrews takes this Greek political concept of absolute civic freedom and transfers it to the throne room of the universe.
It is staggering.
But it's so important to emphasize that this boldness, this parrhesia, is not a subjective feeling. It is not emotional hype.
Not at all.
It isn't about working yourself up into a state of spiritual frenzy so you finally feel bold enough to talk to God.
That is a vital distinction Murray makes. Boldness, in this context, is the objective right of access.
Objective, meaning it's true whether you feel it or not.
Exactly. It is a legal, spiritual reality secured by the infinite worth of Christ's blood. When Murray talks about the blood, he is talking about the fact that Christ's sacrifice removes every single vestige of sin from God's sight.
Every vestige.
The blood shed on earth secures the entrance. The blood presented in heaven cleanses our conscience. And Murray poses a question to the reader that is profoundly convicting. He asks, which is greater in your sight, your sin or the blood of Jesus?
But let me push back on that for a second, because it is very easy to say the blood is greater than my sin intellectually when we are just having a conversation here.
Sure.
But what about the believer who has fallen into the exact same habit, the exact same failure for the 20th time this month?
The repetitive cycle.
Right. How does Murray suggest they find the objective boldness to walk back into the holiest without feeling like an absolute fraud and hypocrite?
It is the ultimate struggle of the believer's conscience. Murray's answer is that if your sin is greater in your sight than the blood, you will hang back in the outer court, paralyzed by guilt and unworthiness.
You'll just sit there in shame.
You will feel timid. But Murray argues that this timidity actually dishonors the blood.
Dishonors it.
Yes, because it subtly suggests that the blood of the Son of God wasn't enough to cover that 20th failure. It suggests your sin is more powerful than Christ's sacrifice.
Wow.
To enter with parrhesia doesn't mean you aren't grieved by your sin. It means you recognize that the blood has objectively answered for it. You entered boldly, not because you were flawless, but because the blood has made you perfectly fit for his presence despite your flaws.
That reframes repentance entirely.
It does.
It isn't groveling in the outer court hoping God will let you back in. It is boldly stepping into the holiest to receive the mercy and grace to overcome the failure.
You have the right to be there.
And that leads right into how the blood actually impacts us internally. The text says the blood cleanses the conscience from dead works to serve the living God.
Dead works.
I always used to think of dead works as just blatant, obvious sins, stealing, lying, whatever. But Murray clarifies that dead works are actually our own fleshly attempts to please God.
Yes. Dead works are all the exhausting religious self-effort we engage in, trying to earn our way into the inner room.
Like we're trying to pay an entry fee.
Exactly. It is the philanthropy done to assuage guilt, the prayers said just to check a box, the moral striving done in our own strength. The blood cleanses our conscience from the need to do any of that.
It frees us from the treadmill.
It frees us to serve God naturally and joyfully, not out of a desperate attempt to tip the cosmic scales in our favor.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this brings us to the core mechanism of how this all actually functions in our biology and psychology. The mediator of the new covenant.
The new covenant.
Under the old covenant, the law was entirely external. It was written on tablets of stone.
Outside of the person.
It told the people exactly what to do. Thou shalt not. But it gave them absolutely zero inner power to execute it.
None.
The result. Murray quotes the bleak assessment from Hebrews. They continued not. They failed. The old covenant demanded holiness, but couldn't supply a single drop of it.
But in the new covenant, something entirely different happens. The high priest takes that law and writes it in our hearts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God doesn't just lower the bar. He doesn't say, well, you guys couldn't handle the stone tablet, so let's just make holiness optional.
No. The standard remains.
No. He supplies the holiness inwardly. By writing the law on our hearts, he actually changes our fundamental desires.
He changes what we want to do.
He makes doing his will our natural delight. It is no longer an external rule we are fighting against. It becomes our very nature.
That's the organic change.
It is the difference between trying to force a fish to fly and simply letting a bird soar. When the law is in your heart, serving God becomes the natural, unforced expression of your new nature.
It is an organic transformation, not a behavioral modification. And because we have this blood that provides objective parrhesia, and we have this new and living way that has been hacked through the jungle, and we have this great high priest operating in the power of an endless life who writes the law in our hearts, the book of Hebrews reaches a massive pivot point.
The turning point of the book.
Murray identifies Hebrews 10.19 to 22 as the hinge of the entire letter. It moves decisively from doctrine to practice.
From the what to the how.
The command is clear. Let us draw near. Since all of this has been provided, step in. And Murray lays out from the text 4 specific conditions, or 4 marks, of the true worshiper who is drawing near to dwell in the holiest.
Let's break those 4 marks down meticulously, because this is where the rubber meets the road for you in your daily walk.
Absolutely.
The first mark of someone drawing near is having a true heart. According to Murray's deep dive, a true heart means total consecration.
Total consecration.
It isn't about achieving flawless perfection. It's about being entirely yielded. It means giving up your own will, despairing of your ability to save yourself, and desiring God above absolutely everything else.
Above everything.
It is handing over the keys to every single room in your house, including the closets you don't want anyone to see.
If we hold anything back, the heart is not true in the biblical sense.
It's divided.
Right. The second mark is fullness of faith, which Murray so carefully contrasts with fullness of feeling.
Such a huge difference. We have to understand faith as the sense of the unseen, as Hebrews 11 later describes it. Faith functions as a spiritual organ of sight. When we draw near to God, we must do so in what Murray vividly calls bare, naked faith.
Bare, naked faith. I love that phrase, but it is brutal in practice.
It really is.
Bare, naked faith means we reckon that Jesus takes us into the holiest, even if our emotions don't immediately register a single change.
Regardless of what we feel.
You might step into your morning prayer time, fully consecrated, trusting the blood, and feel absolutely nothing.
Just silence.
No goosebumps, no sudden emotional high, no tears of joy. Just silence. Fullness of faith says, I am in the holiest of all right now, because the objective reality of the blood and the intercession of the high priest, completely regardless of what my nervous system is telling me.
That is profound because modern culture, and often modern church culture, trains us to tie our spiritual success directly to our emotional state.
If we feel good, we must be doing it right. Exactly. If we feel good, God is near. If we feel dry, God is distant. Murray completely severs that tie. The holiest of all is a realm of faith, not a realm of sensory feedback.
So we have a true heart and fullness of naked faith.
Mhm.
The third mark is a heart sprinkled from an evil conscience.
The sprinkled heart.
This connects right back to what we were saying about the believer who fails for the 20th time. You cannot have fellowship with God if you are actively paralyzed by guilt and remorse.
It creates a wall.
An evil conscience acts like an invisible, impenetrable barrier. But when your heart is sprinkled with the blood, you live in the reality of absolute, objective forgiveness.
Objective forgiveness.
You live free from that crippling, suffocating sense of constantly being on trial before a disappointed judge.
And the fourth mark grounds all of this soaring theology right back into the physical reality of our body.
Oh, this is the practical part.
Yes, a body washed with pure water. This indicates that abiding in the holiest isn't just a mystical internal attitude that floats above reality while your actual life is a mess.
It's not just in your head.
It extends to the physical body and daily conduct. It encompasses what you eat, how you sleep, how you work, what you look at on your phone, and how you manage your relationships. It is practical, gritty holiness.
Murray pulls no punches here. He notes that without clean hands and a willingness to actively put away known sin in our physical lives, that perfect, cleansed conscience cannot be fully enjoyed.
They are linked.
You can't actively engage in physical bodily rebellion and expect to enjoy the psychological peace of the holiest of all. There must be harmony between the inner spiritual reality and the outer physical life.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of application. You mentioned earlier the chaos of a Tuesday morning. How is this sustained?
Right. Let's paint the picture.
Please do.
It is 8:20 a.m. on a Tuesday. Your inbox has 40 unread urgent emails from a boss who is breathing down your neck.
Classic Tuesday.
Your kid just spilled a full cup of grape juice all over their school backpack.
The sticky kind.
You are already 10 minutes late. The dog is barking, and your spouse is annoyed. How on earth do you abide in the holiest in that exact moment? What does it practically mean to exercise bare naked faith while you are scrubbing grape juice out of canvas?
Murray points us to a concept found earlier in Hebrews chapter 4, entering the rest of God.
The rest.
This is the secret to daily abiding, especially in the chaos of a Tuesday morning. This rest is described as an abiding Sabbath. It absolutely does not mean you stop going to work, ignore the spilled juice, or stop fulfilling your
It
responsibilities.
is not apathy.
No, it means you cease from your own spiritual self-efforts to manage your inner peace. In that moment of chaos, the fleshly reaction is panic, anger, and a desperate attempt to control the situation through sheer force of will.
Yes, the white-knuckled grip on my morning.
Exactly. Entering the rest means that right there, with a wet towel in your hand, you make a psychological and spiritual pivot.
A pivot.
You internally yield the situation to God. You cease trying to manufacture your own patience. The text uses the analogy of Joshua. Moses brought the Israelites out of Egypt, but Moses represents the law.
The rules.
The law couldn't bring them into the promised land. Joshua had to bring them in. In the same way, we must trust Jesus, our spiritual Joshua, not just to have brought us out of the penalty of sin at salvation, but to actively bring us into the promised land of his presence, right in the middle of that messy kitchen, and keep us there by his power.
He does the keeping.
You say, Lord, I have no patience for this, but I yield to your endless life within me to handle it.
I love that distinction. Moses gets you out of bondage, but Joshua brings you into the rest. And there is a profound dynamic from the text that really highlights how this works in time. It is the relationship between the once for all and the forever.
That's a key tension.
Christ died and entered the heavenly sanctuary once for all. It was a definitive, completed historical act that secured a forever salvation.
It is fit.
For you, the listener, Murray suggests that you must take a definitive, once-for-all step of faith. You have to make a conscious, decisive choice to step out of the outer court and enter the holiest, trusting completely in Christ's finished work. And that one definitive step leads to a forever experience of abiding continually.
It is the union of a single, bold act of faith with a continuous, lifelong posture of trust. But we have to address the elephant in the room.
Okay, the elephant.
If we have taken that step, if we are dwelling in the holiest of all in this abiding rest, why is life still so hard?
That's the question everyone asks.
If I am in the inner sanctuary with God, shouldn't my inbox be manageable? Shouldn't my kids be perfectly behaved? Why do we still face immense challenges, pain, physical illness, and massive resistance?
It is the ultimate question of theodicy on a personal level. If I am hidden in the holiest, why did I just get a terrible diagnosis? Why did I lose my job? Hebrews chapter 12 addresses this directly through the concept of the patience of hope and the reality of chastening.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of a believer's development, we see that trials and chastening, which we can understand as divine discipline, training, or child rearing, are not signs that you have been kicked out of the holiest.
They are punishments.
They are not signs that God is angry with you or has rejected you. It is exactly the opposite. Hebrews says God chastens those he loves. They are signs of loving fatherly training.
And the goal of this chastening is highly specific. Murray emphasizes that God is not punishing us for past sins. Christ already bore that punishment.
The debt is paid.
God is using the friction of daily life, the difficulties, the crushing disappointments to make us partakers of his holiness. He uses the trial to break down our stubborn self-will and conform us to the image of Christ.
And how do we survive that training? We run the race with endurance, not by staring at the obstacles, not by obsessing over the injustice of the trial, but by looking away from our struggles and looking directly at Jesus.
The pioneer and perfecter.
You maintain your position in the holiest by keeping your eyes locked on the high priest, who is mediating the grace you need to endure.
It changes absolutely everything when you view a difficult season. A brutal Tuesday, a month of illness, a year of financial stress. You view it not as a failure of your faith or an abandonment by God, but as the exact curriculum God is using to deepen your capacity for his holiness.
It is a curriculum.
He is expanding your spiritual lungs so you can breathe the air of the holiest of all more deeply. And that leads us to a fascinating paradox in the text that Murray highlights brilliantly.
The paradox of worship and witness.
Yes, we are called to worship within the veil, in the quiet, hidden presence of God, for we are simultaneously called to witness without the camp.
This is beautifully unpacked in Hebrews 13, and it is crucial for ensuring this deep dive doesn't just promote a selfish mysticism.
Just floating away from reality.
We have an inner life that is hidden with God and an outer life that is lived in the gritty reality of the world. To understand without the camp, we have to look at the crucifixion. Jesus was crucified outside the city gates of Jerusalem.
Outside the camp.
He was cast out by the religious establishment. He bore the ultimate reproach and shame.
He was expelled from the camp of respectable established religion.
Precisely. And Murray argues that believers today must also separate themselves from the worldly camp. And we must be careful here because this camp doesn't just mean secular society or the bad people out there.
It's broader than that.
The camp often includes superficial, fleshly, or merely external forms of religion. It includes church cultures that are built on entertainment rather than the presence of God.
That is a sharp critique.
To live in the holiest means we must be willing to bear Christ's reproach outside that camp. It requires what Murray calls the pilgrim spirit.
The pilgrim spirit. It makes me think of Abraham leaving his prosperous homeland of Ur to live in tents in a land he didn't know.
Living as a foreigner.
Or Moses choosing the reproach of Christ over the massive, unimaginable treasures of Egypt. It is a profound internal detachment from the world.
Attachment.
You are in it, you are working your job, you are raising your kids, but you're not anchored to it because your true anchor is within the veil.
And this isn't just about taking an internal philosophical stance. It shows up in very practical, observable sacrifices. The New Covenant doesn't require the sacrifice of bulls and goats, but it absolutely requires daily sacrifices.
What kind of sacrifices?
Murray lists them directly from Hebrews 13. The continual sacrifice of praise from our lips, doing good to others, communicating, which in this context means generously sharing your resources with those in need, and assembling together for mutual encouragement.
And that completely shatters the idea that life in the holiest is some sort of selfish, solitary luxury where you just sit in a dark room with a candle and enjoy spiritual highs while the world burns.
Not at all.
Drawing near to God in the inner sanctuary is what provides the actual, tangible power to go out and bless a dying world. The high priest ministers the heavenly life to us so that we can minister that same life to others.
The inner fuels the outer.
The inner sanctuary equips us for outer service. If you are truly abiding in the holiest, it will result in you being more generous, more loving, and more engaged with the pain of the world, not less.
And it culminates in a very grounded, practical reality that Murray points out: contentment. Hebrews specifically commands believers to be free from the love of money.
So what does this all mean? How practical is that? The ultimate proof that you are dwelling in the holiest of all isn't just that you sing loudly on Sunday, or that you can articulate the difference between the Aaronic and Melchizedekian priesthoods.
It's seen on Monday.
The proof is that you are fundamentally free from the anxiety of materialism on Monday. You are anchored by the promise quoted in Hebrews, "I will in no wise fail thee, nor in any wise forsake thee."
That is true security.
When you possess the immediate presence of God as your abiding portion, the desperate, clawing scramble for earthly security loses its grip on you. You don't need to hoard resources to feel safe because your safety is secured behind the veil.
Synthesizing this entire massive journey through Murray's work, we see a stunningly cohesive picture of the Christian life. To abide in the holiest daily means to completely cease your own fleshly striving.
Stop trying to earn it.
It means trusting absolutely in the objective power of Christ's blood, having that parrhesia to give you the right to be there, regardless of your shifting emotions. It means following Christ's path of yielding your will, the knee and living way.
The pioneer's path.
And it means relying entirely on your heavenly high priest who operates in the power of an indestructible life to maintain your standing in God's presence through the moment-by-moment supply of the Holy Spirit.
It is the shift from trying to build a rickety ladder to heaven through your own good works to realizing the elevator has already been sent down, the doors are wide open, the blood has paid the fare, and Jesus is simply inviting you to step inside and stay.
And it is absolutely vital to remind you, the listener, of something Murray emphasizes on almost every page. This is not an impossible ideal reserved for an elite group of super saints, isolated monks, or hyper-intellectual theologians.
It's not just for the professionals.
This is the exact heritage and the intended, normal destiny provided for every single believer who is willing to step out of the outer court. The blood was shed for you. The veil was rent for you.
For you specifically.
The high priest intercedes specifically for you. The only requirement is the willingness to yield entirely and trust fully in what has already been accomplished.
That is a perfect grounding place to land. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own that builds on everything we've uncovered in this text today.
A final thought.
We've spent this entire time talking about how the massive, heavy veil separating us from the holiest of all was violently torn away by God himself. He removed the barrier.
The barrier is gone.
So if God has removed the barrier, is it possible that the only thing keeping you out of his immediate presence today is a veil of your own making?
A self-made veil.
Is it possible that a subtle, stubborn reliance on your own strength, your own moral goodness, or your own intellectual understanding is acting as a self-made curtain, blinding you to the finished work of Christ? Or perhaps it is a veil of self-condemnation, refusing to believe that the blood is actually greater than your 20th failure.
It's a powerful question to sit with.
It is something to seriously consider as you face your inbox, your family, and your daily life this week. We want to thank you so much for taking this extensive deep dive into the source material with us today. Keep seeking, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.